This is my very first time using a pocket hole system. I'm using the Kreg 320, and I know there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube about it, but I found some things out as a total beginner. I mean, brand new to this pocket hole thing that I thought I would share. So, first of all, I noticed that when I had 3/4 of an inch setting, it made a really jagged cut. Now this was with a single one. I have the 320 which comes apart. You can either have it together like this or these things come apart, and I had just one on. So this was my 3/4 of a wood, 3/4 inch thick, really jagged. But then when I did a 1.5 inch, because this is going to be a side joint, it wasn't jagged. So I don't know why that is, but I just thought I'd point that out. Okay, so next is, you know the way you set this collar to the height of the wood? Well, check it constantly, because I had it set to 3/4, and somewhere along the line I didn't tighten it enough, and it slipped down to 1.5. I don't know when that happened. Hopefully it won't make a difference, but make sure every once in a while you check it and make sure it's still at the setting. So another thing is, if you're using these two together, these are enough to hold it square against the wood. But if you're using just one of them like this, this really isn't enough. It keeps sort of shifting. So when I went to put it on, I had to use a T-square to make sure this was square, and then I clamped it down. If I just relied on this guide, it wasn't really square all the time. It's just not enough of a 90-degree angle to keep it. Right, something else is, when I first did it, clamped it with one of these ordinary things, and it wouldn't hold it in place. It kept shifting when I started to drill. I clamped this as hard as I could, and I could even see the plastic starting to bow a little bit, so it was plenty tight, but this just kept shifting. So after that, I switched to one of these clamps, and it held it just fine. This is a Minecraft. I did not go with the Kreg clamp like this. I got a different brand based on reviews. So this was the Milescraft 6-inch. So something else. You set the wood length on this thing, right? And they tell you on the videos, you just look through here, easy peasy. But there's no positive stops to tell you exactly where to stop. So for example, let's see. For example, the one in the middle, that's a 3/4. That does have a little place where it clicks there, okay? But the ends don't. So let's say I'm moving this just until I see it in the window. Whoop. All right. Is this it? Or is this it? They all fill up this window, so that's going to be very different results. I'm assuming the positive stop in the middle is for 3/4, and then you go all the way to the end for 1.5 inches, but I don't know. I'm going to assume. We'll see what happens. Something else that's kind of interesting. So when you make the adjustments with the wood thickness, all you're adjusting is how far away from the edge of the wood the hole starts and how deep your drill goes. I thought there would be something to adjust the angle, because if you think about it, if you have a really thick piece of wood, you don't need to have a shallow angle, right? You can have a deeper angle because there's more wood, but it's the same angle, it seems to me, whether it's 1/2 inch, 1.5 inches. You're just starting it further back or going deeper, but you're not adjusting the angle of the drill, which kind of surprised me. And one more thing, this clamp guide, it's a little goofy. So one side just has sort of a rubbery thing, and it just kind of sticks in here. That's how you get it in, which means that, like that, which means that every time I pull off my clamp, this whole thing pulls off and stays stuck to my clamp. Feels like kind of a cheapo piece of plastic. So, I mean, it's holding okay so far, but as long as I use that Milescraft clamp and not this Irwin. But I don't know. This whole thing just seems a little, could be better made. They say that the plastic is glass reinforced, and maybe it is, but I noticed the second or third hole I was getting little bits of blue in with my wood chips, so it definitely, you know, you're drilling into the plastic somewhere or rubbing against it and making it shave off. And one more thing is, I found that if I just depended on these, what do they call these? Ejection holes for the wood chips. There was still a lot of wood chips in my hole, so what I was doing was drilling and pulling it out and drilling and pulling it out before I got all the way on the end, just to pull some of the wood chips out and not just depending on these holes. One other thing, I don't know why this is. Alright, so this is set to 1.5 inches, right? The collar and this. So if you look at where this lines up, so I do not have holes that come out the side of the wood when I did it on 1.5 inches. Am I supposed to? I do not know. But so if these are both set to 1.5 inches, right? And if you put this where you're going to be drilling to, right up against that. And you notice where the end of the drill comes. It comes way before the stop for your wood, right? So the end of your wood is going to be, right here. So this is really far away from the edge of the wood if you do that. Is it supposed to be that way? I don't know. But if you compare that to the other sizes, okay, so now I set this to 3/4 inch. I set this to 3/4 inch, and if you do the same thing, right? Put this here, you're going to be drilling to there, and you look, turn it sideways here. Okay, so that's going to where you're drilling. Now that comes just about even with where the edge of your wood is. Okay, and now I set this to 1/2 inch, do the same thing, line it up with where you'd be drilling to, and now it goes even a little bit past the edge of the wood. So I don't know if it's supposed to do that or not. All very good questions. Alright, I was going to be one of those people that never screws up, but obviously I did. Look at my nice pocket hole. I checked this thing, double checked it, and I still did it wrong. I had it on 3/4 instead of 1.5 inches for this, because I set it wrong initially, then realized it and set the bit correctly, but forgot to set this correctly. So as you can see, the drill kind of drilled off a little bit of the guides here. So I guess this particular joint, I will not use pocket things, and I'll just screw it in. Well, it's easy to mess up even when you're careful. Another thing is they claim these pocket holes can work on wood as small as 1/2 inch thick, but it really can't, because this is a 1x2 furring strip, so it's between 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch thick, and the wood really isn't thick enough to accommodate this, because this split while it was attached, this split a little bit of stress and it splits, and the problem is you can see now where the hole comes through. So the hole it makes is exactly halfway up, which is fine, but it's really a tiny little bit of corner of wood that it's going through. So if you have thicker wood, your pocket hole starts further back and you get more of a corner of wood that it's going through. But if it's this thin, your pocket hole only starts here, it goes to there, so there's just this little tiny triangle of wood that it's going through that it's using to hold, and it's not enough. I mean, maybe it is if you have a really small project and you're not going to have a lot of stress put on it, but it's got to be wood that's at least 1 inch, I would say, or 3/4 inch rather. Well, I try to replace that split piece, and just screwing it in, it split. It is just too thin. You know, the problem might be because I'm using both softwood and hardwood. Can you do that? I don't know, I'm new at this. So I have this soft furring strip going into poplar. So I know you're supposed to use coarse thread screws for softwood and fine thread for hardwood, but if you're combining them, which one do you use? I don't know. I used coarse, but maybe I should have used fine, or maybe you can't go softwood into hardwood like that. I don't know. Okay, I replaced all my pine furring strips with poplar, which is a harder wood, and it's better for my rats anyway, because it's not a bad wood for rats. This is for our rat playground, by the way. So here's another question I have, and I don't know the answer. I guess I will try it and see what happens. So I'm making this table apron, and my question is, if you're using pocket holes to do all your joinery, what prevents this pocket screw from hitting the pocket screw I'm going to put in here to join this to the corner leg there? I mean, why don't these two screws hit each other when you drill them in? I looked online, and everybody that makes their tables with pocket holes, it looks like those two things would hit inside here. So I don't know the answer to that, but I guess I'm going to position it so that this is going this way and this is going this way, and hope they don't hit. Ordinarily, I would want to put it this way, because I saw in one of those videos that you want it heading towards the bigger part of the wood, not toward the corner, because it makes a stronger joint. But I'm afraid if I do it this direction, it's going to hit these screws, which are going that way. So I don't know the answer to that. So here's my rat playground all finished. Came out pretty well. I think they, there's Hazel demoing it. Okay, bye. It needs more toys and stuff, and eventually I'm going to hang things from the ceiling there, but I haven't gotten around to it. I think the bottom line is, if you're going to use furring strips, you can use pine, but you can't use the smallest ones like what I had. They're just not beefy enough to let you use those pocket holes, because I've seen videos online where people made tables and stuff out of pine furring strips, but they use the thicker ones. So I went to poplar for everything, hardwood, and it worked a lot better. But yeah, I mean, most people would plug these and paint it and stuff, but these are just for my rats and they don't care, so I did not bother. Anyway, so yeah, so pocket holes works pretty well.